So hello guys, and this is my try to recreate a SOMA laboratory LYRA 8 or LYRA in VCV Rack with completely free and some of them open source modules, and of course this TouchOSC layout as well. So at first I want you to hear that, and then I will explain how I did that and show it by blocks. So it sounds kind of like that. So let me explain how I did that, or if you don't wanna to hear me and listen my stories, you can just support my channel already and get stuff, this layout and this layout on my Patreon, so you can bring this to your iPad and VCV Rack and just get started to play. But if you want to listen how I did that, just be with me and I show you this setup. So I start with 8 oscillators or generators as described in manual. Voices, exactly. By the way, I used original manual from Vlad Kramer and 2 awesome reviews to recreate it, because I didn't have a copy of this hardware synthesizer by Loopop and Nick from Sonicstate, so thank you guys. So here is a 8 instance of Bleak Vult Oscillator. Each of them I connect to knobs here, so I can control sharp and modulation. So modulation is come from for first two voices from 3 and 4, so it's kind of circle here, and I use a switch, for example, work like this. So the next one is sharp. I just connect the scope and listen what the blick generates from triangle and to square. So like, let's take a listen. Let's turn this mode on and let's turn the delay off. Let's turn the button. It's kind of like triangle. Then turn to the square wave. Interesting thing about LYRA that FM modulation from other voice come after VCA output. So you need to fire it up source of FM modulation to hear the modulation. So let's apply a modulation from 3 and 4, and when we press voice 1 nothing happened, but when we press 3 it starts receive modulation. And by the way, the waveform also participate in this process. And same from this part of oscillator. So we can create cross feedback modulation, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty inspired me. Oh wow, this sounds fat. And this switch also come from LFO, but I will talk about a bit later. So this is FM, this is tune knobs, or I map this right to the blick. So nothing fancy about it, but the fast is a bit tricky to set up. I use internal MIDI mapping by Stormelder Micromap, and I used this toggle from Ercomion, by the way, to activate, let's zoom it in, switch between soft and gentle on 2 pairs as in original. So when I turn fast on, it's turned to the gentle, so it's slowly, and fast is a soft. It's pretty fast, but not that fast as a click. And this is not present in original. By this is only the way to increase attack by manipulating with sensors, original sensors. So I make some connection from hold knob, and it increases attack of oscillators. And yeah, it's present in original, and holds when it's 12 o'clock. It starts generate a constant gate for where is fast is applying, and when we go to the when fast is disabling, it's start also oscillating. By the way, it's cool to cut the release, long release, by just putting fast. I made it as in original. So the right part is still the same as the left, but it has a slightly pitchier 7th and 8th voices as described in manual. So it's like a bass, it's like a high, it's like a mid. Okay. This is pitch for 4 voices, and this pitch for upper voices. So let's disable the phone. Oh, what a nice sound. It still remains interval between these 4 voices as well here. Yeah, kinda cool. Here is a total feedback which is applied to bottom source of modulation, total feedback run from delay, drive and volume. So if we apply and fire it up, nothing is happening actually. Oh yeah. So we receive a feedback FM oscillation to the first voice. You can see the slightly change if we press 2 oscillator. Let's apply oscillator. Oh wow, it's pretty noisy. But yeah, still sounds cool, and I like this feature. I made it by awesome book audio switch and apply to toggle gate for it and control it for MIDI control. By the way, you can control this patch even without iPad and TouchOSC. I map it to numpad keyboard, so the buttons, corresponding buttons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 generates gates to a Vult Slap, and you can switch those parameters. I mark in Submarine TD 410. It's also label tool. It makes that patch happens, by the way. So, and the next one is a vibrato, sorry. So vibrato applies by 8 polyphonic offsets, because as described in manual, each vibrato has own speed. So I apply it to the LLFO from book audio, and then apply to poly switch when select on off for vibrato, and then for rise, and full slew module from book audio. And so this apply a different speeds of LFO to our Blick oscillators. By the way, you can see green cable. This is corresponding for CV, and red brown for audio. So let's look at the top part. So the top part consists hyper LFO. This is exactly just an 2 LFO with square wave output, and then they go to the Boolean logic module when they do AND and OR operation, and I choose a switch there, so we can choose between AND and OR. This is how it sounds like. But it's nicer for a delay as well. It's modulated time. Pretty psychedelic. Pretty cool. And here is a sync. This is actually soft sync of FM. I don't know how Vlad made that, but I apply just 38% of FM modulation and made the switch here. So here's the difference. So this is when frequency A sent to FM through frequency B. Just on off for it. This LFO's concept is pretty amazing. It's simple, but it generates a rhythm, and LYRA became just a rhythmic drone synthesizer. So here is a delay, is what's a bit tricky to make it with 2 times and 2 modulations, but polyphony in VCV Rack is a thing that break the rules. So I apply I copy 2 identical mono signals from this out of oscillators and then send it to the in. In that way we can activate 2 virtual delays at one panel, and I apply same thing with merge 4 models from 23 volts and apply it to the time CV. So in that case we can have 2 delay times as in original LYRA. So let's disable any modulations. And each time has a own modulation amount control. This is self LFO switch as present here. This is self feedback from I actually don't remember from LYRA or from the delay. It applies some FM modulation to time FM. So it's like a carpal strong, I think. Sounds pretty cool. And here is an LFO, and LFO can be square, so it comes from I believe AND operation as described in manual, and the sum of 2 triangle waves from same LFOs. I just put it to the poly sum and get the signals that don't just remain under 10 volts. And this is pretty interesting. This is a result of complex LFO signal. This is feedback I mapped right in Sangster and drive that as well. I chose Sangster because it's like analog delay. We can also apply lo-fi, but it's introduce some noise. Also, the feedback, as I can remember, is self-oscillating, or kind of like that. And the last section is LYRA. LYRA is distortion. I choose just simple tube distortion, but I don't know which one was used in LYRA. And here is a dry wet of distortion, and this is amount of distortion. Pretty simple. Let's turn delay off and turn modulation on. That way we can enable drive it. I also like X-Fade for this patch. I used it so many times, and many times it's just like 0%. It takes two signals and makes them in the right proportion. This is amount of drive. Pretty nice concept of drive-eds for distortion. So this is how its synth works. If you want more videos on copying any synth, especially esoteric ones, just leave some thoughts in the comments below. Now remember, you can get this template on my Patreon and support a lot of my channel. Thanks for existing patrons, you help me so much. By the way, I did this synth for 1 week and test it. So, oh, last thing I forgot to show how hold actually works. So I firstly use mathematical operations in VCV Rack. So as you can remember, the fast envelope requires a bit longer hold. So it starts, triggers from here. So I applied some subtraction from 5 volts to leave the unfast envelope at 12 o'clock, sorry, and at 1 o'clock it will be applied hold for fast group of voice. So if you have any questions on how it works or something other questions, please also leave them in comments, and thank you for watching, guys, and see you next time.